Okay, so when you're setting goals, feels great, right? Like, we're very ambitious creatures. I have set some major goals, and then I look back and go, oh, that was a bad idea. So I guess one of it is like, how do we recognize when maybe the goal isn't the right fit for us, and how do we adjust from there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've all been there, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I want to run a marathon, or, you know,
No.
I've wanted to do the riverbank for how long, and it still hasn't happened. But, you know, things shift with seasons, and that's where you have to give yourself grace, first of all. Know that things change.
Yeah.
There's things we can't control
Yeah.
that will shift our goals, no matter what they are. If they were realistic in one part of life, they might not be even a month later.
Yeah, and I know that's something that students, specifically in college in their first year, really struggle with. It's like they'll set those goals that match what standards they had at their high school, but then when you go to college, you're tested differently. Yeah, you have different levels of freedom and different amount of content and ways of being tested. And so they'll set the same goals and they'll come in and they'll get a different result doing the same thing they've done in the past, and it feels very
frustrating.
Yes, it feels very frustrating. It's like, but I did the thing that I always did. Why didn't I get an A? Because the situation, the circumstance changed. And so then the part of grace that I tell students is like, well, this was the best that you could do with the information that you had. You were being a good scientist. You used the data you already had and applied it, but you didn't catch that there was a new variable, a different level which you're being studied, tested over. So I think giving grace is huge. But now what do we do when that happens? Like, okay, we got the D. We thought we were going to get an A. We did the A type things, but like, oh no, this was testing application. So now what do I do?
Right. I think the first thing, right, is to go to you, say, I must have missed something. Like, is there something I can do to study better, right? Like, have that conversation if needed.
Seek resources.
Right, seek resources. But the other piece is revisit your goals.
Yeah.
You know, maybe it's not to get an A in the class, but it's to, okay, let's, again, an A, a B, a C, that's an outcome goal.
Yeah.
What behavioral goal can you set? And do we need to shift how we're doing it?
Yeah.
Right? Because studying you nailed it. Like, it looks a lot different in college. Some people don't even have to study in high school. So they get to college and they're like, oh boy.
Oh, that is the most common conversation I have after the first exam. Like, I've never had to study before. Nobody ever taught me.
No.
And so this is that moment where that behavior part is the part that you want to tweak, because again, it's measurable. You can see it happening. And a lot of that old practice of like, I didn't have to study, or I just reread notes and things like that doesn't work here.
Yeah.
And so we have to make those smaller, okay, let's now do it multiple times sooner.
Yeah.
And change different. Because here's the thing that I feel really bad about is, as an instructor, students want the magic formula. Like, here, do that.
Yeah, and you'll get an A.
I can't. It's not possible. I wish it was. I really do. But everybody's different. Like, everybody has different preferences. And so that's why I wanted to have an episode about goals and adjusting them, because you might have the goal to do flashcards every night, and while that might work for your friend, and that's a great strategy for them and how their brain works, when you go back and reflect, that's when you realize, well, that doesn't really work well for me as an individual. So that's, I think, where I wanted to go with this too, is making sure that we account for that individuality of like, just because it works for somebody else doesn't mean it's the magic formula.
You know, and that kind of reminded me too of, you know, even in the goals we work on together, right? Sometimes I say, let's jump into action right away. You got this. You know it. Sometimes you got to take a step back, though, and say, what do I need to learn?
Yeah.
What do I need to learn about myself? What do I need to learn about the topic? What environment do I have to create, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes we have to set our environment. We have to make sure our study environment, our workout environment, whatever it is set up first.
Yeah.
We have to take a step back and say, I need to readjust here. I need to maybe take some time to learn, prepare, set up before I jump into studying.
Yeah. I've seen
So
that
I
a
set
ton.
myself
Like,
up for success.
I will ask students sometimes, like, where your study space is, and like, just wherever I find it on my bed. I'm like, well, how's sleeping going, right? Because we're training our brains for this physical space in the context clues we give it. And so if you are studying in bed, then it's going to be really hard to go to sleep. Or if you have noticed the pattern, when you try to study in bed, you're going to fall asleep.
You're going to fall asleep.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, setting up the spaces.
Sometimes you got to prepare.
When you're looking at, I guess I also want to touch on this. It wasn't the main goal of this conversation, but what about what if you're recognizing the big goal really isn't right for you?
Yeah.
Because I've seen that where students come in because, well, that's the career path with a lot of money and it's like prestige, or my parents really wanted it for me.
That's a big decision.
That's a big gut check moment. So how do you have those conversations?
I think it's tying it back. You go back and you say, let's review. Like, take some time, journal, talk about a career counselor, talk to other people, gather those resources.
Yeah.
But what is your values? Where do you see yourself? What's important to you?
Yeah.
They have to really dig in there and say, what do I need and what do I want in this?
Yeah.
Because it's a big life change.
Yeah.
So that's where I would say you got to pull on your resources. Talk to your professors. Talk to career counselors. Talk to academic advisors. Especially if you're deciding, like, is this even the path I want to take, right?
And that's heavy and it's hard. And I think sometimes we feel like it's too late to change, but it's not. I mean, I've had students come back after, second career, third career, making these changes.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
So I guess it's also that permission to not feel like you're locked into your original goal is, I think, part of it.
Yeah, you have to sometimes, again, life shifts, things change, seasons change. It's just saying, where am I at right now, and what's the best next